Okay, so this is the second video I promised you, and this is my four-wheel drive traffic on Vivaro, same chassis, Expedition campervan. I'm not gonna go through all the transmission, all the stuff I showed you before. You can see the chassis now, but this is gonna be another video, another topic where there's actually loads going on over there. What I'm doing now, I'm gonna tell you in a minute, but let's go through the engine setup first, and a couple of problems and issues, and an Expedition overlanding setup. Not off-road fun. This is completely different stuff, okay? Off-road fun and off-road competition is completely different setup than Expedition or overlanding. And let me explain why I'm thinking this. Now, this is M57N engine, second generation of M57 engines. You can find them in second gen X5s, E46, 5 Series, etc. etc. This is a common rail engine. They are extremely durable, they are extremely reliable engines. So, a fairly good setup for the Expedition cars. However, there is one downside. They are great, sorry, before that, they are great on MPG. I'm doing on 35-inch tires, fully loaded for camping ready, without towing the trailer, easily 30 miles per gallon, easily, without being careful when driving. If I'm careful, I can do much better, but you know, I'm not. They produce a lot of power. This is very close to being 300 brakes, probably, lots of torque. I can't remember the figures, but it's honestly much more than I need. Even if I tow a trailer, it's not a problem. It really can handle anything. I just have more power than I need, to be honest. But let's go from the downside, from all the minutes, on the bad stuff about this setup. All the electronics. You have six injectors. You have 2 fuel pressures on the rail. You have I think you got another sensor, fuel pressure sensor on the high pressure pump. The high pressure pump is actually very solid, so I don't think that will break unless you really have really bad fuel, shit fuel, and your filter is not existing anymore. Then you have the fuel pressure regulator, which is electronic. Then you got the map sensor, which is bolted to the behind of this plenum. Then you have the crank sensor. Then you have the cam sensor. Then you have a map sensor. Also, you have obviously the fuel pumps, lift fuel pumps, one in the tank, one in the info of the chassis, which brings the fuel to the engine, and it has to run about, I think, 3.5 bar as a lift pump, or 4, I can't remember, 4.5, I think, can't remember, too many figures in my head, it doesn't matter, but that has to bring that fuel pressure into the existing pump. If not, the engine most likely will go in the limp mode. Then obviously you have the ECU. Now these ECUs don't actually break, they're extremely durable. I don't think there was any problems with the ECUs ever. They're really solid, it's all Bosch stuff. As the rest of the sensors, obviously. So I'm not saying this is shit setup, this is really good. As the electronics, I think this is one of the most reliable electronics you can find in engines, because again, it's Bosch stuff and it's very high quality. Now the ECU has a module which is called EWS, which is the mobilizer, and then it has an antenna for the key, which is really good safety device. And obviously my wiring, which is beautiful, as you can see, obviously all these wires, yeah, they've been just twisted to be connected, some tape on the top, all of them. But obviously I got everything on the fuse. A beautiful job, as you can see. In my defense, this was just a quick setup, just connect everything, make the engine run and test it. Just have a look, you know, just experiment, test if it's all right. Then we do it tidy up. I should actually order a loom from Max Wiseman, which is doing all these looms extremely neat and clean. He will do a better job than myself, so I was supposed to order the stuff from him. But yeah, this is supposed to be corrected a day after or a weekend after, and that was a year ago, and still runs this way, which, surprise, surprise, never ever had a single issue with this. So I'm talking about electronics being a weak part of this car, and yet I'm running something like this. It's been over a year, there's no fender between the wheel and the electrics, and I had not a single issue. I've been doing off-roading with this stuff, loads of driving in the wet, the whole winter. I've been abusing of this car, not a single electrical problem. apart the other day. Surprise, nothing on this failed, nothing on this failed, just the alternator. Now alternator is something in common with any other engines. Not only this, every engine has the alternator, because obviously you have to charge your battery. But what happens with this engine, this is common rail engine, and it uses lots of electricity to run these injectors, okay? So what happens, I believe we had just over 10 minutes and the battery was going down as low as 9 volts, which some of you know that these engines, these ECUs shouldn't run down low voltage for two reasons. First of all, it's bad, because it's bad, but the main reason is because the ECU can actually get frozen. It can lose the code, that is running code between the ECU and the EWS, which is the immobilizer. And if you turn it off, you may not be able to restart it. Doesn't matter if you got the charge battery or not. There's no way you can restart the engine. In that case, you have to have a spare ECU, spare EWS, spare key, swap them around, and then you can run it. And then you have to bring your ECU, or you have to take the car on the recovery truck or whatever, and go most likely to the main dealer, BMW, to get it resetted. And to be honest, it's going to be funny, now it's stripped down, but you know my fun, right? Can you imagine me with this thing going to BMW main dealer and say, excuse me, can you reset my ECU please? Now I want to see their face, but most likely not going to touch it, because you know how they are. Now I got a few friends who could do it for me anyways, because even private people that do it, not only main dealers, but we're talking about expedition vehicles, so you're in the middle of nowhere. I'm not saying you have to be in Morocco, but you could be. You could be just, in Scotland, where there's no reception, no network, no EE. Because remember, they're going to recover your car if it's on the tarmac. If it's in the middle of field, if in the middle of forest somewhere, who's going to recover you? So you have to be able to fix your car on your own. This is the main thing. So you not only have to be at least a little mechanically minded, you also have to have all the spares. So every single sensor I told you, you should have it as a spare. You should have a spare ECU, spare everything. All the not like this, but made proper and reliable. But what happens if one of the injectors fails? You can't change them in the field. Now, when you build a car and the engine has some mileage, you can change them. You can raise the fuel pressures. I hear that if you raise the fuel pressures in a rail, they're less likely to fail. But if it does happen, what are you going to do? Exactly. They're not easy to change, I'm telling you now. And this is most likely engine out situation in the middle of field. So good luck with that. Again, you can prepare yourself for everything. I'm not saying not. Okay, so the problem with the immobilizer freezing because the low voltage battery, because the alternator dies, no problems. You can find, you can put yourself a small secondary battery which takes care only of the ECU memory, which is separated from the main system. Yes, that is a solution. You can run a speed charge with a secondary battery. Yes, that's not a problem, so it gets you out of the troubles temporarily. So there are solutions to all these problems I mentioned. But it is all complicated. So what if we could have a similar engine, let's say a 3-liter turbo diesel engine, that doesn't rely on any electrics, that does not have a single sensor, that the injectors are completely mechanical, not electronic, and the fuel pump is completely mechanical, not electronic, it doesn't have an ECU, immobilizer, not a single sensor. The engine that all it needs to run is fuel. And obviously you have to start it. So yes, you need initially a battery, obviously, to start it. But then when it runs, it doesn't need any electricity whatsoever. That would be beautiful. And I think that will be completely perfect and spot on for an expedition vehicle. I can tell you right now, I could sacrifice some of the MPG, because engine like that will not be as fuel efficient as one of these common rail engines, because obviously all this electronics is there to give you a best emissions, second of all, but first of all, great MPG, okay? It calculates the amount of air goes into the engine, the temperature of the air, the temperature of the fuel, the amount of the fuel, etc., elaborates all of this, and then ECU gives you obviously the best possible It makes the engine running as efficient as possible. But who cares if you could have slightly worse MPG but completely reliable engine? Don't take me wrong, these engines mechanically are very sound, are extremely good. But again, electronics, I would like to get rid of all this. I mean, all this stuff I would prefer not to fix it, but just remove completely. ECU, I would like not to have it. All these sensors, I would like not to have it. Then I will have my peace of mind. Does an engine like this exist? Surprise, surprise. Now, many of you know, many of you don't. For who does, look someone else. For who doesn't know, I present you the mighty OM606 turbo diesel Merc engine. Now this one originally, it's not electronics free. It runs on ECU, it runs few sensors, but it runs on a mechanical pump which is controlled by the ECU. Now you can swap that pump with the one which is completely mechanical from the model before this engine, and you just direct swap. Yes, you need them slightly bigger, you have to tweak them a little bit to give you more power. This is another beautiful thing. Now, just because this is completely mechanical, doesn't have the ECU, doesn't mean it doesn't deliver great power. That engine there runs nearly 300 brakes once remapped. This, with a bigger turbo, yes, you have to invest more money. With a nice turbo system and tweaked pump, it can deliver up to actually over 600 brakes and over 1000 Nm of torque. Obviously, we're talking extreme results, which is good for a race car. To keep it completely reliable, I will stay about 350, 400 brakes. And again, tons of torque, which is way more than that engine produces, so there's no compromises. The only compromise with this engine is obviously your MPG. The fuel consumption is going to be much worse with this. But to be honest, fuck it. You know, I prefer spend £100 more on fuel and have a peace of mind on this. Now, will I take this engine from my race car and put it in my van? Absolutely not, that would be stupid. Now, race car has been there for years, he was waiting for this engine, it's mounted now and it's good. Because again, it's extreme. This is like, if this is really over 3 bar of boost, over 6,000 RPMs, and it's, no, this is for racing. So, yep, she just arrived. Very, very fresh, 100,000 miles only, which these are 1,000,000 miles engines, that's how they call them. This only has 100,000 miles on it. And this is the engine that is going in the van very, very soon. And I'm saying very soon, I'm saying very soon. About tomorrow, or Wednesday, in a few days. I got 3 days to do it, and I have to do it. So I'm staying very light tonight, very late tomorrow, and very late the day after. Before Thursday, today is Monday, this engine has to be in that chassis over there. I've got really small amount of time to do it. So please do appreciate the fact that I'm spending loads of time doing this video and showing all this thing. But I'm very excited about this, and I promise I'm gonna make videos of all the stuff I'm making. And I wanna keep my promise this time, not like a few years ago when I promised and I've done my stuff and I never video it. Now I'm doing this. Now, however, there's one thing to say about this setup. We decided to run a small, stupid compromise. We're gonna run the engine in completely mechanical setup, but I'm gonna keep the automatic gearbox, which we rely, unfortunately, on a small electronic device from OF Gear. He's a guy who builds this specific small computers to control these gearboxes. However, it is extremely reliable, it doesn't consume much electricity, and I think it's a small compromise to have a little bit of comfort, plus my wife can drive it finally with the automatic. I think it's quite sensible, plus again, if something happens I can fix it in the field because I'm going to buy 2 of them, you know, just a spare. The gearbox itself is very durable, it's very strong. All you have to do is have to increase oil pressures. You have to put a big oil cooler, obviously to keep them cool down and all the stuff. But you can really make them really reliable and strong. They take twice the amount of power this engine can ever produce, especially if you modify them, because you can. This is actually the same gearboxes they use in AMG, obviously with a different clutch plug, with a different torque converter. But again, this is all the stuff you can do in the future. When I'm gonna run 350, maybe 400 brakes, to be honest, even 300 brakes will be enough for me. I'm trying to find a good setup with a turbo, so I got low down RPMs, torque, and good power. 300, I'll be happy. If I got 400, over the moon. But that gearbox, however, it will handle that power, no problems whatsoever. Actually, it will handle twice that. So I think it's good enough. The Delica, unfortunately, this beauty, which is sitting nice, will have to wait. We'll have to wait. But I promise I'm gonna be quick with the van. So it's not gonna take long. No, I think I have to do it quickly because then I have already different projects coming down. I got an old customer with a Volkswagen T2. He did 7,000 miles already, nothing, and he's extremely happy. But we have to do some tweaks, we have to do some modifications. I will have to rebuild the whole front suspension because obviously now it's extremely quick. We want it even quicker.